There have been a lot of rumors about Rickie Fowler defecting from the PGA Tour and joining LIV Golf. I think that is nonsense.
Rickie Fowler's announcement has shaken the golf world. What seemed like a career update is really a challenge to tradition, loyalty, and the sport's old guard. Behind it lies a story of power, money, and influence few are talking about. And I've uncovered what they're hiding. Zero plans, at least publicly. One of the clearest public statements from Rickie Fowler about LIV Golf was a direct refusal of rumors that he intended to leave PGA Tour, at least for now. In a 2024 interview, Fowler emphasized that he had zero plans to go anywhere. He underscored his belief in the leadership and ongoing efforts within the PGA Tour, naming prominent players like Patrick Cantlay, Jordan Spieth, and Tiger Woods as part of a group working diligently behind the scenes.
There's an event coming up. I'm not playing, but it's in a week and a half.
Fowler's stance came under scrutiny, especially because, in the weeks prior, some of his traditional sponsor logos had disappeared from his tournament apparel. That triggered speculation, often fueled by media and fans, that he might be preparing to shift to LIV. Yet Fowler used those changes in sponsorship to push back against the narrative, stating that the lack of logos wasn't a sign of a split to LIV, but simply a result of contracts expiring, in his case with Farmers Insurance, or awaiting renewal with Rocket Mortgage. By affirming his commitment to the PGA Tour, or at least denying any present intention to defect, Fowler positioned himself as a publicly loyal figure, even as the broader golf landscape rattled with defections, negotiations, and power plays. His statement served as a kind of anchor. For now, he appeared unwilling to follow in the footsteps of those who had already crossed over to LIV. Yet the emphasis on plans leaves open the possibility of change. It signals caution, not a permanent vow. An open door, not a promise. While Fowler has publicly declared he has no plans to defect to LIV, interviews from earlier years show a more nuanced side. One where he acknowledged being approached by LIV and admitted he hadn't definitively ruled out the possibility. In 2022, as the LIV Golf Invitational Series prepared to launch, he told reporters, "I haven't necessarily made a decision one way or the other."
Well, being that I got a handful of spots this year, which I'm incredibly grateful for, unfortunately, I really didn't take advantage of many of those opportunities up until Jack's event.
He explained that while he believed the PGA Tour remained the best place to play, he also recognized that emerging leagues like LIV or others represented alternatives because, in his view, these tours or leagues wouldn't really be coming up if they didn't see that there was more opportunity out there. In that sense, he didn't paint the conversation as purely about money. The talk of opportunity and competition suggested a consideration of structure, flexibility, and the evolving economics of golf. Fowler's openness struck a contrast with many peers who quickly rejected the idea or stayed silent. At the time, analysts noted that his willingness to at least discuss LIV made him one of the more plausible targets for LIV recruitment, given his popularity, past success, and commercial appeal. Yet even in those cautious remarks, Fowler stressed uncertainty. He insisted more clarity was needed about what it meant contractually, about tour status, about possible penalties. His stance presented a middle ground. Not a firm commitment, but not a blanket refusal either. It was a stance that kept doors open, which, given the turbulence and shifting alliances in pro golf, might be more strategic than categorical. Guarding integrity, not a direct road back for LIV defectors. As debates over reconciliation and reintegration of LIV players into the PGA Tour intensified, Fowler emerged as one of the more vocal critics of a full, unpenalized return. In 2024, he explicitly argued that former LIV players shouldn't be welcomed back without some form of accountability. "There has to be punishments," he said. "I don't think it's a direct road."
I feel like things have been heading in the right direction, and I've been in a good spot for, a few months now of knowing where the game is and is continuing to get better. Last week, I definitely, liked my chances with how I was playing, and
He framed this not as vindictiveness, but as fairness. Those who chose to leave the tour had made a decision, and that decision should carry consequences if they seek to return. Fowler pointed to the efforts of those who stayed, including tour leadership, board members, and long-term loyal players who put a lot of time and effort into protecting and improving the PGA Tour for those who remained. This position placed him at odds with a shifting sentiment among some other top players. Notably, Rory McIlroy, once a staunch defender of the tour, had by early 2024 softened, arguing that harsh penalties for former LIV players might be counterproductive for the sport. Fowler, by contrast, framed the path back as conditional, at least, not a simple reset button. In doing so, he cast himself as a guardian of what PGA Tour loyalists consider more than just a competition platform, a community with values, history, and allegiances. To him, reintegration without cost risked undermining the trust, sacrifices, and collective efforts of those who never left. A tightrope between principle and pressure. Fowler's handling of the LIV PGA divide reflects more than just binary allegiance. It underscores the tension many top golfers face, balancing personal ambition, financial realities, and advocacy for the sport's integrity. On one hand, his repeated statements of loyalty and rejection of a direct road back for LIV players suggest a principled stance. On the other hand, his past openness to considering LIV, and the fact that sponsors faded from his gear, point to external pressures and incentive structures that complicate pure commitment.
But yeah, I mean, going through, plenty of tough years now, if you look over the last kind of 5-6 years, and I've had plenty of highs and I've seen the lows. Yeah, I mean, the tough times definitely, make you appreciate when you are playing well.
In 2022, when approached about LIV, he didn't claim ignorance. He said it was a legitimate, interesting position, noting that competition and opportunity are what drive the sport. He also admitted uncertainty, underlining that the decision required clarity on player status, contract structure, and consequences. Moreover, the fade in sponsorship logos from longtime partners such as Farmers Insurance put supplemental pressure on any professional golfer evaluating their future. Fowler defended that move as business-driven, contracts expiring or being renegotiated, but to outsiders, it became a vivid sign of instability, of shifting support, and of the tension between brand value and competitive security. Thus, Fowler's position might best be understood not as a black-and-white commitment, but as a precarious balancing act. He appears committed, for now, but he's also aware of what's at stake, in earnings, in legacy, in the evolving structure of professional golf. In that sense, his silence on a definitive future speaks as loudly as any public statement. Rumor engine still grinding. Even though Fowler has repeatedly said he has no current plans to join LIV, speculation continues, and it is fed by frequent rumors and industry chatter. As recently as November 2025, a commentary piece on LIV-related movements listed Fowler among the names being discussed as possible defector candidates. The article argued that, given his past stature and recent form, Fowler could be exactly the kind of marketable veteran player that LIV would want to recruit.
Rumor mill has it, and maybe it's beyond rumor mill, but it's been suggested that he's been offered $85 million, or that he may have accepted $85 million for a 4-year deal with LIV.
That alone shows how rumors around golf's breakaway league don't depend solely on confirmed negotiations, but also on perception, history, and potential. Fowler remains a recognizable brand in golf, which makes him compelling as a big-name possibility, even without formal overtures. Additionally, shifts in his sponsorship and his occasionally uneven performance on the PGA Tour add fuel to the speculative fire. Outside observers see opportunity, either for Fowler or for LIV, and interpret every small change as a possible signal. At the same time, the mere fact that his name keeps surfacing in such gossip emphasizes how destabilized pro golf remains. The split between tours, renegotiation of sponsorships, and uncertainty about the future of the game keep fan attention and media conjecture alive. In that environment, even a cautious or negative statement by a player can quickly be reframed as waiting in the wings. For Fowler, this means that even though he has publicly denied plans to defect, rumors are unlikely to stop and may continue shaping public expectations of him. Whether those rumors have any foundation is another question. As of now, there's no confirmed contract, no official announcement, no credible leak tying him to LIV. But in a climate where narratives and money intersect, rumor alone can be powerful. For Fowler, that means he has to manage not just his own statements, but a sport-wide narrative that remains hungry for big moves. Career and sponsor, pressure, context, behind the whispering. Part of what makes Fowler's situation so scrutinized is where he stands in his career and marketability. For many golf commentators, Fowler represents a high-profile name, a former elite PGA Tour player whose star, while faded from his peak years, still carries significant fan and commercial appeal. That alone makes him a logical candidate for recruitment by LIV, which tends to target recognizable players to boost its profile and attract sponsors.
Rickie, what are the emotions you're kind of feeling right now?
Obviously bummed. I knew what I needed to do.
Compounding that, in recent years, Fowler has experienced shifts in his sponsorship deals and equipment arrangements. For instance, some of his longtime sponsors, like Farmers Insurance and Rocket Mortgage, did not renew, a fact he publicly addressed. These changes have triggered speculation, because in the golf world, a missing sponsor logo sometimes signals deeper changes, financial reevaluations, career uncertainty, or openness to new opportunities. For those watching from outside, it's a red flag. Moreover, Fowler's performance on the PGA Tour has had ups and downs over the past several years. While he remains capable and occasionally competitive, he is no longer seen as a dominant force week in, week out. In that sense, the appeal of a tour with different structure, potentially less rigorous scheduling, fewer events, and lucrative guarantees, might seem more attractive either for career longevity or financial security. Critics and supporters alike note that many players whose performance dipped have taken the LIV route. So, even if Fowler hasn't committed, the speculation around him takes on an undercurrent of realism, shaped by broader patterns among players in similar circumstances. In short, Fowler's place in the pro golf ecosystem, as a recognizable yet not dominant name, with shifting sponsorships and a career in transition, makes him a logical subject of whispers. The speculation isn't necessarily justified, but in context, it's understandable. If he jumps, what it would mean for golf's narrative. If Fowler were to join LIV, the implications would go beyond just one player switching tours. It could shift perceptions about the viability of LIV and potentially influence other undecided players. Fowler is not a fringe name. He's been a flagship face of the PGA Tour, enjoyed major endorsements, and maintained public visibility for years. His departure would, in effect, be a symbolic strike, a signal that even established PGA stars see merit or necessity in the breakaway league.
It's a touchy area right now because I would say is like the players don't know what the consequences or repercussions are going to be.
For LIV, landing someone like Fowler would add legitimacy, especially among fans skeptical of the breakaway tour being filled only by controversial or fringe players. It would say, this is not just a refuge for those cast aside by the PGA Tour. This is a viable option for mainstream pros. That could encourage more defections, or at least more openness among other players who are watching the evolving golf economy. For the PGA Tour, it could represent a blow to prestige and tradition. Fowler leaving might intensify questions about the tour's ability to retain its marquee names. It would underscore ongoing structural pressures, sponsorship volatility, shifting loyalties, and the increasing influence of alternative pay and format models. For fans, stakeholders, tournaments, and sponsors, it would deepen uncertainty about the future architecture of pro golf. Importantly, such a move would also amplify the public debate around what constitutes success or loyalty in golf, money and opportunity, or tradition and competitive challenge. Fowler's decision, one way or the other, could influence how other players weigh those trade-offs and shape the narrative of what professional golf becomes in the next decade. As the whispers turn into headlines, one thing is certain: Rickie Fowler's decision could reshape the landscape of professional golf. The move sent shockwaves through fans, players, and sponsors alike, and the sport is still reacting to the implications. The only question now is how loyalty, tradition, and opportunity will realign in the wake of this announcement. That's it for today. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update on this unfolding story.